The wrestling world has been absolutely devastated by news that has left millions of fans around the globe in complete and utter disbelief. Hulk Hogan, the man who didn't just define professional wrestling but literally created the foundation that every single superstar today stands on, has passed away at the age of 71. And the way WWE has responded to this earth-shattering loss is creating more controversy than you could possibly imagine. While fans are mourning the loss of the greatest wrestling icon of all time, WWE's so-called tribute has sparked outrage across social media platforms, with thousands of fans calling it an absolute disgrace to Hogan's legendary legacy. What should have been a heartfelt celebration of a man who single-handedly put wrestling on the map has instead turned into a corporate disaster that's leaving longtime fans questioning whether WWE even understands what they've lost. But here's what's going to make your blood boil. Sources inside WWE are reporting that company executives were actually celebrating behind closed doors, claiming that Hogan's death finally allows them to move past the controversy and focus on their new corporate image. Can you believe that? The man who made WWE a billion-dollar empire, and they're treating his death like it's some kind of business opportunity. We're about to expose everything that's been happening behind the scenes since this tragic news broke. And I guarantee you that by the end of this video, you're going to be absolutely furious at how WWE has handled this situation. The disrespect is so blatant, so obvious, that even casual wrestling fans are calling for boycotts of WWE programming. Let me start with the most infuriating part of this entire situation. When news of Hogan's passing first broke early this morning, WWE's official response took over 4 hours to post. 4 hours. This is the man who main evented the first 9 WrestleManias, who brought mainstream attention to professional wrestling like no one before or since, and WWE couldn't even be bothered to acknowledge his death for 4 entire hours. Compare that to when other celebrities pass away, WWE usually has tribute posts ready within minutes. But for Hulk Hogan, the man who literally built their empire, they took 4 hours. And when they finally did post something, it was the most generic, corporate-approved statement you've ever seen. No emotion, no personal touches, just a bland paragraph that could have been written by a computer. The statement read, "WWE is saddened to learn of the passing of Terry Bollea, known to fans worldwide as Hulk Hogan. Our thoughts are with his family during this difficult time." That's it. 26 words for a man who gave his entire life to the wrestling business and made more money for WWE than probably any performer in history. But wait, it gets worse. Multiple sources within WWE have confirmed that there was actually a heated argument in the corporate offices about whether they should even acknowledge Hogan's death at all. Can you believe that? There were executives arguing that they should just ignore the death of the most famous wrestler who ever lived because they were worried about potential backlash. This is the same company that gave elaborate tribute shows to performers who had fraction of Hogan's impact on the business. But for the man who made wrestling mainstream, who brought celebrity attention to WWE, who created the template that every top guy since has followed, they debated whether to even mention his death. And here's where it gets absolutely disgusting. According to our sources inside WWE headquarters, when the decision was finally made to post the tribute, there was actual applause in the meeting room. Applause. They were celebrating that they had handled the situation professionally, while the wrestling world was mourning the loss of its greatest icon. One source told us that a high-ranking WWE executive actually said, "This finally closes the chapter of our history. We can move forward without having to deal with Hogan questions anymore." The callousness of that statement should make every wrestling fan's blood boil. This isn't just some controversial figure they're talking about. This is the man who put wrestling on the map. Let's talk about what Hulk Hogan actually meant to WWE and to professional wrestling as a whole, because clearly the current WWE management has completely forgotten. When Vince McMahon Sr. sold WWE to his son in 1982, it was a regional territory with limited reach and even smaller ambitions. It was Hulk Hogan who transformed that small regional company into a global entertainment empire. Hogan's debut in WWE in 1983 changed everything. His charisma, his larger-than-life personality, and his incredible ability to connect with audiences of all ages made professional wrestling appointment television for millions of families across America. Before Hogan, wrestling was considered a niche form of entertainment watched primarily by working-class men in regional markets. But Hogan transcended those boundaries. He made wrestling cool for kids, acceptable for families, and interesting enough for mainstream media to pay attention. MTV started showing wrestling content because of Hogan. Saturday Night Live had wrestling sketches because of Hogan. Major corporations started sponsoring wrestling events because of Hogan. The numbers don't lie, and they tell the story of just how massive Hogan's impact really was. WrestleMania 1 in 1985 drew mainstream attention specifically because Hulk Hogan was facing Roddy Piper in the main event. The event was broadcast to over 1 million fans in closed-circuit locations across the country, generating unprecedented revenue for WWE. But it was WrestleMania 3 in 1987 that truly showcased Hogan's drawing power and his importance to WWE's success. The event, headlined by Hogan vs. Andre the Giant, drew 93,173 fans to the Pontiac Silverdome and generated over $1.6 million in gate receipts. For perspective, that attendance record stood for decades and that revenue figure was absolutely astronomical for 1987. The match itself became the most watched wrestling match in history at that time, with an estimated 33 million viewers tuning in to see Hogan bodyslam Andre the Giant and retain the WWE Championship. That moment, Hogan lifting the 520-pound Andre above his head and slamming him to the mat, is still considered one of the most iconic images in all of sports entertainment. But Hogan's influence extended far beyond just wrestling matches and attendance figures. He became a legitimate mainstream celebrity, appearing on talk shows, in movies, and in television series that had nothing to do with wrestling. He was making WWE money through licensing deals, merchandise sales, and cross-promotional opportunities that no wrestler had ever achieved before. The merchandising empire built around Hulk Hogan was revolutionary for its time. Hogan T-shirts, action figures, lunch boxes, and countless other products generated millions of dollars in revenue for WWE. Kids across America were wearing yellow and red, growing mustaches like their hero, and practicing their poses in front of mirrors. More importantly, Hogan created the template for what a top WWE superstar should be. Every main event wrestler since Hogan has been measured against the standards he established. The ability to cut compelling promos, to connect with audiences emotionally, to carry themselves as larger-than-life characters, and to draw money at the box office, all of these expectations for WWE's top performers can be traced directly back to what Hulk Hogan accomplished during his legendary run. Even during his controversial periods, including his departure to WCW in 1994 and the creation of the New World Order, Hogan continued to prove his incredible value to the wrestling business. His heel turn in 1996, when he revealed himself as the third man joining the Outsiders, is still considered one of the most shocking moments in wrestling history. The audience reaction that night at Bash at the Beach 1996 was unlike anything wrestling had ever seen. Fans were throwing garbage into the ring, expressing genuine anger and betrayal at seeing their childhood hero turn evil. That level of emotional investment in a wrestling character is incredibly rare and demonstrated just how deeply Hogan had connected with multiple generations of fans. His run as Hollywood Hulk Hogan and the leader of the NWO helped revitalize his career and proved that even in his 40s, he could still be the most compelling character in professional wrestling. The Monday Night Wars between WWE and WCW were largely fought with Hogan as WCW's top attraction, and his presence helped make that competition the most exciting period in wrestling history. When Hogan finally returned to WWE in 2002, the crowd reaction was absolutely electric. Despite years of being positioned as the enemy, despite his controversial departure, and despite all the bad blood between him and WWE management, the fans welcomed him back with open arms. That's the mark of a truly transcendent performer, someone who can overcome any storyline obstacle through sheer force of personality and connection with the audience. His matches against The Rock at WrestleMania X8 and his subsequent championship runs proved that even in the early 2000s, Hulk Hogan could still draw money and create magical moments. The crowd in Toronto that night was so strongly behind Hogan that WWE had to completely change their planned storyline on the fly. The Rock, who was supposed to be the crowd favorite, found himself in the unexpected position of being booed against the returning legend. That's the kind of organic audience reaction that can't be manufactured or scripted. It has to be earned through years of genuine connection and authentic character work. Hogan had that connection with fans in a way that very few performers in any form of entertainment have ever achieved. But now, instead of celebrating this incredible legacy and acknowledging the massive debt that WWE owes to Hulk Hogan, the company's response to his death has been cold, calculated, and utterly disrespectful. The contrast between what Hogan gave to WWE and what WWE is giving back to his memory is absolutely staggering. Other wrestling promotions have shown infinitely more class and respect in their tributes to Hogan. AEW, despite being WWE's direct competitor, posted a heartfelt tribute that acknowledged Hogan's contributions to the entire wrestling industry. Tony Khan personally wrote a statement praising Hogan's impact on professional wrestling and expressing genuine condolences to his family. Impact Wrestling, Ring of Honor, and even smaller independent promotions have all posted lengthy tributes celebrating Hogan's career and his influence on their performers. These companies understand that Hogan's contributions transcended any single promotion and that his death represents a massive loss for the entire wrestling community. But WWE, the company that benefited most from Hogan's talents and that owes its current success directly to the foundation he helped build, has offered nothing but corporate speak and behind-the-scenes disrespect. It's absolutely inexcusable and shows a complete lack of understanding about wrestling history and fan sentiment. The fan reaction to WWE's inadequate response has been swift and overwhelmingly negative. Social media platforms are flooded with angry comments from longtime WWE viewers expressing their disappointment and disgust at the company's handling of Hogan's death. Many are threatening to cancel their WWE Network subscriptions and boycott upcoming shows. Wrestling forums and discussion boards are filled with detailed breakdowns of everything WWE should have done differently. Fans are comparing WWE's response to how they handled the deaths of other wrestling legends and pointing out the obvious disparity in respect and acknowledgement. Multiple fan-created tribute videos for Hulk Hogan have already been posted online, and they're getting significantly more views and positive reactions than WWE's official statement. These fan tributes show genuine emotion, include rare footage and interviews, and truly celebrate Hogan's incredible career and lasting impact on professional wrestling. The most damning aspect of this entire situation is that it perfectly encapsulates everything that longtime wrestling fans hate about modern WWE. The company has become so corporate, so focused on their sanitized brand image, and so disconnected from wrestling history that they can't even properly honor the man who made their success possible. This isn't just about Hulk Hogan specifically, although his contributions certainly deserve better recognition. This is about WWE's fundamental misunderstanding of what made them successful in the first place and their complete disregard for the fans who have supported them for decades. The executives currently running WWE seem to believe that they can simply ignore or minimize the controversial aspects of their history and pretend that their current success exists in a vacuum. But wrestling fans aren't stupid, and they understand the direct line between Hogan's groundbreaking work in the 1980s and WWE's current position as a global entertainment empire. By treating Hogan's death as an inconvenience rather than as the loss of a wrestling legend, WWE is essentially telling their fans that wrestling history doesn't matter, that the performers who built their company are expendable, and that corporate image is more important than acknowledging the truth about their own success. This attitude is incredibly short-sighted from a business perspective as well. WWE's most passionate and loyal fanbase consists largely of people who grew up watching Hulk Hogan and who understand his historical significance. By alienating these fans with their disrespectful response, WWE is potentially damaging relationships with the very people who are most likely to continue supporting their product long-term. The merchandising implications alone should have motivated WWE to handle this situation better. Hulk Hogan merchandise has consistently been among WWE's best-selling items, even during periods when he wasn't actively performing for the company. A properly executed tribute program could have generated significant revenue while also honoring Hogan's memory appropriately. Instead, WWE's inadequate response has created a public relations nightmare that's overshadowing what should have been a celebration of one of wrestling's greatest careers. The story has shifted from honoring Hogan's legacy to criticizing WWE's corporate callousness, which benefits no one and disrespects everyone involved. The contrast with how WWE handled other high-profile deaths in recent years makes their response to Hogan's passing even more inexcusable. When Eddie Guerrero died in 2005, WWE immediately dedicated an entire episode of Raw to his memory, featuring heartfelt tributes from wrestlers and staff members who knew him personally. When Macho Man Randy Savage passed away in 2011, WWE produced multiple tribute packages and made special efforts to highlight his contributions to the company, despite the fact that he hadn't worked for WWE in years and there had been some backstage tensions. Even when non-wrestling celebrities die, WWE often posts more substantial tributes than what they offered for Hulk Hogan. The disparity is so obvious and so offensive that it's impossible to interpret as anything other than a deliberate slight against Hogan's memory and his contributions to the company. The timing of this disrespectful response is particularly galling given that WWE is currently in the middle of negotiations for their next television contract. The company is asking networks to pay them billions of dollars based largely on the brand recognition and mainstream appeal that Hulk Hogan helped create decades ago. WWE's current programming may not feature Hogan, but their negotiating position absolutely depends on the foundation he helped build. The fact that they can't acknowledge this basic reality even in death shows a level of corporate ingratitude that should concern anyone doing business with them. From a fan perspective, the most frustrating aspect of this entire situation is the missed opportunity to properly celebrate Hogan's incredible career and lasting impact on professional wrestling. Instead of focusing on controversy and corporate politics, this should have been a moment for the wrestling community to come together and appreciate everything Hogan accomplished. His career spanned multiple decades and included countless memorable moments that helped define what professional wrestling could be at its best. From his early days as a villain in the WWF to his transformation into the ultimate good guy, from his mainstream success in the 1980s to his shocking heel turn in the 1990s, Hogan's career provides a roadmap for how wrestling characters can evolve and remain relevant across different eras. The techniques he pioneered for connecting with audiences, building heat with opponents, and creating memorable catchphrases and signature moves are still being used by wrestlers today. His influence can be seen in the presentation style of every major wrestling promotion and in the performance approach of countless individual wrestlers. But instead of highlighting these contributions and educating newer fans about Hogan's historical significance, WWE's inadequate response has turned his death into a controversy about corporate respect and wrestling politics. This does a disservice to Hogan's memory, to the fans who loved him, and to the wrestling industry as a whole. The international wrestling community has shown infinitely more class in their tributes to Hogan than his former home company. Wrestling promotions from Japan, Mexico, Europe, and other regions have all posted heartfelt statements acknowledging his global impact and expressing genuine condolences. These international tributes recognize that Hogan's influence extended far beyond American wrestling and that his larger-than-life character helped introduce professional wrestling to audiences around the world. His tours of Japan in particular were incredibly successful and helped establish ongoing relationships between American and Japanese wrestling that continue to benefit performers today. The fact that companies and wrestlers from around the world are showing more respect for Hogan's memory than WWE is both embarrassing for the American company and indicative of how far they've drifted from understanding what made them successful. Current WWE wrestlers have also been notably silent about Hogan's death, which likely reflects company policy rather than personal feelings. In previous eras, wrestlers were encouraged to share their thoughts about industry legends and to express genuine emotions about significant events. The current corporate climate apparently discourages such authentic responses. This creates an artificial and unsatisfying dynamic where fans are looking for genuine reactions and emotional connections, but WWE's performers are constrained by corporate messaging requirements. The result is that independent wrestlers and performers from other companies are providing more authentic tributes than the wrestlers who work for the company Hogan helped build. The long-term implications of WWE's handling of this situation extend far beyond just this single incident. Their response sends a clear message about how they view wrestling history, how they treat former performers, and how much they value fan sentiment versus corporate image management. For longtime wrestling fans, this incident reinforces concerns that WWE has become too corporate and too disconnected from the authentic emotions and relationships that made professional wrestling special in the first place. It suggests that the company views its history as a liability rather than as an asset. For current and future WWE performers, this response raises serious questions about how they'll be treated after their active careers end. If the company can't properly honor someone of Hogan's stature and historical significance, what does that say about how they'll treat performers who had less mainstream success? The media coverage of WWE's response has been overwhelmingly negative, with mainstream outlets criticizing the company's handling of the situation and highlighting the contrast with how other organizations have responded. This negative coverage extends the damage beyond just wrestling fans and potentially impacts WWE's broader corporate reputation. The most infuriating aspect of this entire situation is that it was completely avoidable. WWE could have easily produced a respectful tribute that acknowledged Hogan's contributions while staying within whatever corporate guidelines they felt were necessary. Instead, they chose the path that has created maximum controversy and minimum respect for their company. The wrestling world has lost one of its greatest legends, and instead of coming together to celebrate his incredible career and lasting impact, we're forced to discuss WWE's corporate failure and their disrespectful treatment of wrestling history. This robs fans of the proper mourning and celebration process that Hogan's death deserves. What makes this situation even more tragic is that Hulk Hogan spent the later years of his life trying to rebuild relationships and make amends for past controversies. He had expressed interest in working with WWE again and had made public statements about wanting to contribute positively to the wrestling industry. Those efforts at reconciliation and redemption are now meaningless because WWE couldn't find it in their corporate heart to show basic human decency when responding to his death. They've chosen to let business considerations override simple respect for someone who gave his life to the wrestling industry. The fan response to this situation proves that wrestling audiences still care deeply about their history and still expect wrestling companies to show appropriate respect for the legends who built the industry. WWE's failure to meet these basic expectations represents a fundamental misunderstanding of their own fanbase. As we continue to process this tragic loss and WWE's disappointing response, it's important to remember that Hulk Hogan's legacy doesn't depend on corporate approval or official recognition. His contributions to professional wrestling are permanently etched in history, and no amount of corporate politics can diminish what he accomplished. The fans remember, the wrestling community remembers, and history will remember Hulk Hogan as the man who transformed professional wrestling from a regional curiosity into a global entertainment phenomenon. That legacy is secure regardless of how WWE chooses to acknowledge it. But WWE's failure to properly honor that legacy says everything about who they are as a company and how they view the wrestling history and wrestling fans that made their success possible. It's a corporate failure that reveals the complete disconnect between WWE's current management and the authentic emotions that make professional wrestling special. The wrestling world deserves better, Hulk Hogan's memory deserves better, and the fans who have supported WWE for decades deserve infinitely better than what this company has offered in response to the death of wrestling's greatest icon. If you thought tonight's story was wild, trust me, what happens next will blow your mind. So don't stop now. Click on the video right here on your screen to continue the chaos, the drama, and the inside scoop only we deliver. And if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button, give this video a like, and join the Wrestling News CC family, where the real stories of WWE come to life. See you in the next one.